Hello, everyone, and welcome to this IoT Solutions Summit 2020, unboxing smart building success. Today, we discovered the potential of making buildings more intelligent and more empathic. My name is André Noël Chaker, and I have the great honor of being the moderator of this very smart event. Ladies and gentlemen, it's great to see so many of you online. You are representing over 62 different countries. And I think this is for good reason, as you can see from the program under the stream which are following this. And between the program and the stream, we've put in a few ways you can interact with us today. You can go to the menu, and under the menu, you have a messaging capability. So please send us your comments and questions. Under that, you have a voting capability for the different polls that we're going to have today, and the chat function where you can see everybody's chats and comments. So why don't we take the first poll right now? The first poll I'd like to pose to you, ladies and gentlemen, is what is it that you expect to learn today? What is it that you expect to learn? You've got a long list, then you have all of the above as one of the options. So please let us know, and we'll take a look at that very shortly. There's a global transformation going on in IoT in the way we construct, live, and build in buildings of the future. This is literally the $1 trillion opportunity for the next decade. And today, we will show you how impossible things can be made easy in this fantastic industry. And we're going to start our show today by welcoming the Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Haltia, Janne Kilpeläinen. Welcome. So, Janne, welcome to the show.
Thank you.
How do you feel? Are you excited?
I'm excited. This is my Finnish phase of showing excitement, and my heart is pumping. I know there's lots of people online. We have a great agenda, nice speakers, good messages, and fantastic hosts as well.
So fantastic. Excited. You're very kind. Thank you, Janne. And I think that it's going to be a day to remember in the IoT industry. Tell me, there are many events being organized this year because we're in this situation, and they're usually called webinars or seminars or conferences, but we chose the word summit. Is there a reason for that?
That's actually a very good question. If you look at Wikipedia, check out summit. Yes. What it says that it's actually the highest point in elevation from the nearby points.
Right.
We are Haltian, so actually Halti is the highest peak in Finland as well. So one of our actually brand promises is that we take our customers and partners to the top.
And we're going to do that today with them.
Exactly.
But to do that, I'd like to, if we take a look now at the poll and you see that, what are you hoping to learn from this event? Look at what people are telling us. I think that people are all in this event, okay? It's all of the above is like 40%. But they're looking for deployment of these solutions, empathic building, also IoT products. But I'd like to ask you, what are the KPIs for this event? What are our objectives today?
I think we want to inspire and educate. What are the kind of opportunities within the smart building space? We want to show and give an idea what's the really nice user experience as well within smart buildings as well. And thirdly, we want to kind of invite and extend the invitation for our current and future partners as well to join us build that ecosystem for smart building IoT.
I have a feeling we're going to succeed, but let's see.
Me too.
Let's kick off the show, and we have our first keynote speaker already online. He's the CEO of Memoori, talking to us about the impact of IoT on building design and user experience. James McHale, welcome. Welcome, James.
Hey, Andre. How you doing?
Pretty good. How are things in Stockholm today?
They're okay, thanks. Yeah. Typical December day. Gray.
Perfect weather to work on IoT solutions.
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. James, the floor is yours.
Thank you very much. Yeah, so I hope, well, first of all, of course, thank you so much to Haltian for inviting me to come and speak today and kick things off. I know it's going to be a really interesting summit, and I'm sure that we're all going to learn a lot. So yeah, my job really is to talk today about the impact of IoT, and I want to put that in the context of building design and user experience. So let's get on with it. Can I have the next slide, please? So this is a question I do often hear, throughout the industry and for many years. What is a smart building? And, it's a question, of course, with many answers. And a lot of the answers I tend to hear seem to focus on some narrow definition of what, system is in the building or is not in the building. And, in my humble opinion, it's a bit of a waste of time. It's the wrong question, essentially. And I think a better question is that we should be asking, what is the purpose of that building? And more importantly, is that building fulfilling its purpose? So it's not really about technology in a way. It's about the purpose of the building, what it's doing, and how it's impacting the people that are using the building. So really, that's the theme for my talk today. So can I have the next slide, please? Now, I'm going to hazard a guess, right, that everyone on the line probably knows exactly what it's like to be in a building that does not fulfill its purpose. I mean, take a look around you. I don't know where you are. I imagine a lot of you are probably working from home today. What's it like? Is it too cold? Is there noise distracting you? Can you concentrate? Or are you maybe checking your email while you're listening to me? I mean, is the purpose of the room set up for work? See, I think as an industry, we've done a great job of delivering output, but not outcomes. And this is what technology needs to help us change. Can we go on to the next slide, please? So to help us explain that, this is a simplified view of what the average life cycle of a commercial building might look like. And what I've done, if you look along the top, you can see a timeline there of build, design, operate, and maintain, those phases of the building. This design and build phase roughly could take somewhere between 4 to 5 years. The operate and maintain phase could be average of 65 years. I'm reliably informed for, let's say, US office buildings. And then below that, what we've tried to do is to show some of the key stakeholders that are involved in this process. So during the design phase, of course, we need an investor, someone who's a visionary for the project. Also, maybe an owner operator, somebody who is, a company that wants to not just own the building, but also inhabit it afterwards, or maybe a developer. And then, of course, at some point, they're going to commission a design team. And that will be most likely made up of an architect, structural engineer, building services engineer, and some quantity surveyors. Then, once the design has been worked on, at some point as we move into the build phase, or no doubt before, a main contractor will be appointed. Then what you generally find is that from that point, these contracts cascade down towards, of course, the suppliers and the subcontractors. These are the companies that are responsible for delivering some part of the building. And many, of course, will be delivering and installing technology. And really, part of what we're describing here is a legal framework. A lot of it's contractual, a lot of it's about mitigating risk. No one really wants to get left, being responsible if there's some issue along the way. And of course, like most projects, price is really important within this. This, unfortunately, is often a low margin business. And what you can see from time to time is systems get engineered out in order to, make sure that some profit is made on the project. And finally, at the bottom there, you can see what is called the plan of work stages. This is something that was come up with by an organization called RIBA, the Royal Institute for British Architects. And they envisaged these 7 stages of work through to in use there. The most important of these, of course, is 6. That's the practical completion and handover, which is the point at which all those stakeholders there on the left-hand side get to finish and hand over the building to whoever is responsible for the operate and maintain phase of it. And then they get to go and work on their next new building. But of course, that's not really the reality, right? You know, this building then is still around for, on average, 65 years. It's basically the start of its life. So I think, you know, really it says something about some of the mindset within the industry that, you know, we have this one phase to describe the 65-year operate and maintain, and 6 to describe just this, you know, 5-year design and build phase. And if you consider then how that fits in with, you know, the systems that are installed in this building during that operate and maintain phase, you know, how often should things be replaced and refurbished? And then consider the software, you know, how's that dealt with? How should that be patched? How often should that be updated? And, you know, I think what we can consider here is that this process of delivery that you can see here has not been, of course, designed to deliver complex technical systems. Can we see the next slide, please? So let's contrast that with the aviation industry. You know, no one talks about a smart aircraft, do they? You know, we think of an aircraft as intrinsically smart. And I guess on the face of it, this may not seem like a particularly fair comparison, but in a lot of respects, the two industries have things in common. I think we're both delivering highly sophisticated product to market, and that's combining mechanical and now increasingly cyber systems. If we take one company, for example, Rolls-Royce, unfortunately not doing too well at the moment, but that's, of course, not their fault. Issues with COVID. They are an important part of the aviation supply chain. They make engines, but they don't actually sell engines, they sell time. They lease their engines to carriers, and they're responsible then for all the maintenance and diagnostics associated with that engine. You know, these things are now absolutely packed with real-time sensors. There's no handover, no design, no build, maintain phases. It's one managed service. Next slide, please. So this kind of joined up approach to data is unfortunately less common in the building industry. And as this analogy shows, data in building systems is often in silos. It's unlikely that, for example, the company who installs, let's say, an access control system is going to be the same company who installs the lighting or the building management system. And if systems aren't integrated, they're much less likely to share data, don't operate, of course, to their full potential, and importantly, they're not going to deliver the best return on investment to the customer. But I'm glad to say things are changing. You know, of course, some of these huge macro technological trends like Moore's Law and leading into better sensor capabilities are giving us the digital tools that we can use to understand and interpret the built environment. So, if you will, a feedback loop, right? So we're collecting the data, we're understanding it, and then we're making autonomous decisions to improve our environment. And that is essentially what the Internet of Things is all about. Next slide, please. So you can see here a mapping that we've done as part of our research. And this shows some of the technical systems in buildings and, you know, loosely how they relate to each other. There are 6 lines on this slide, essentially facilities, lighting, energy, security, and what we've called user experience. And then finally, business enterprise. And if I just take one particular part from this, you'll see I've highlighted on this a red box that includes occupancy analytics. We've done some research in that area this year, and there alone we found 220 suppliers of systems globally. And we estimate that portion of the market is worth somewhere in the region of 2.2 billion. And we're seeing some really solid growth there in these type of applications of IoT. And even through the pandemic, they've shown that we can use this data efficiently to help, make sure buildings are safe and maintain some social distancing. Now, and we're pretty convinced now that we're going to see a massive proliferation of connected devices in commercial office and commercial real estate. Next slide, please. So what does this kind of look like in reality? Well, here is a photo I took of the ceiling of my office building. And, roughly you'll just go through and look at some of the things that are up there. If we look at the top left corner, what you can see there is a multifunctional control unit that supports different communication protocols like BATnet and Modbus. Then below that, of course, you can see all of that IP cabling carrying all the data, no doubt from the enterprise systems as well. Then on the right-hand side, an air duct, part of the HVAC system, and then highlighted like a halfway down there as well is a damper actuator, which again helps to control the airflow and the temperature and all that good stuff in the building. And then various other things as well. We're seeing some IP video cameras there at the bottom, some fire systems, both fire suppression, and then the red box, if you can see that, that's fire detection. And then finally, you have to trust me on this one, but the bottom right, an occupancy sensor. That's using IR to detect movement, which can be used with the various reasons. Next slide, please. This is a quote I think is super interesting, and I think this really typifies some of the change in mindset that we're seeing around user experience in buildings. It's from a company called Arm, a UK company who design chips, and this comes from their workplace innovation department. Work is a thing you do, not a place you go. And you can see, I think, really from this quote that they don't think of their facilities as just bricks and mortar. They really do think of them, in terms of user experience. Are they providing the optimal environment for their people to do their best work? And next slide shows another example of this. This comes from an Ericsson sustainability report. If we can see that. Next slide. Thank you. If you look at the top right there, they talk about their smart office concept. And this concept, which is based on the Internet of Things, aims to improve employee experience in the workplace, for example, by optimizing air quality and temperature. As I said, this comes from their sustainability report. So, they're taking this kind of stuff really seriously. And on to my next slide. As I get towards the end of my presentation, I think I wanted to ask a question. Will dumb buildings become stranded assets in this new climate economy? And what do I mean by that? Well, basically, is widespread adoption of energy efficient buildings or even net zero energy buildings achievable without IoT? I don't think so. I think the IoT is going to absolutely be a big part of us producing more energy efficient buildings. And why is this important? Well, there's several reasons. I think firstly, we're definitely going to see more climate change legislation coming down the track. I mean, already in countries like Netherlands, we're seeing legislation around office buildings that's saying that they need to meet some minimum energy performance requirements before they can be rented out to any tenant. And also, as well as that, I think from a financial perspective, what we're going to see is an increasing use of property data in financial models as well. And that's going to, again, help to drive adoption of IoT. Next slide, please. So just to finish, this is some of the reports that we've produced and I've shown some information from today. And just really to say that I think construction isn't, of course, just about bricks and mortar, and it hasn't been for a while. I mean, as a society, we've always expended enormous amounts of capital on buildings that display different messages like power or pride in our identity. But I think increasingly in the future, we're going to see our buildings display messages that are ones of purpose and function. And that really concludes my presentation today. Thank you.
Thank you, James. What a way to kick off our summit. Thank you for those insights. James, before I take some of these questions, and thank you for sending in those questions, I've got some really good ones from our audience. But before we do that, I'd like to take a look at a poll. So please, I'll direct you to taking the second poll, the question being, are you implementing or planning to implement a smart building project yourselves? So tell us where you are, from already implementing all the way to not yet, okay? And then we'll take a look at the results of that poll by the end of this Q&A session with you. But we got questions. The first question from Tuomas, and thank you, Tuomas, for sending this. What advice would you give to a company looking to start with a building IoT project?
Yeah, this is something that I get asked quite a lot. I think it's really important. I think a lot of people assume that, these type of building technology projects are going to be expensive. And, let's be honest, like a lot of equipment that goes into buildings is expensive. It does require a lot of capital expenditure. But actually, I think we're seeing, and I mentioned occupancy analytics before, and again, I think that's a good example of, something you can actually try on a small test level, right? So you could maybe take one floor of your building or a part of your building, put in some sensors with software. Most likely it will be, cloud-based software as a service. And it doesn't necessarily have to be too expensive. Test it, see what works, see if it's giving you the data you need, and then iterate. And that would be, I think, a good place to start.
Thank you. And John is sending you kudos for saying really insightful views. A good point by Memoori. Is the purpose of the building right for you? Indeed, that is a key question, purpose. Thank you for that.
Absolutely.
But Patrick asks you a question. Patrick asks you this. Is it really that short life cycle for the design and build? How big projects is the report related to?
Well, that diagram I showed you, I mean, that's an average of buildings. Do vary, of course. Like, for example, let's say in a large hospital project, that's a big undertaking. It's probably going to take longer. Likewise, the smaller commercial buildings may take less. So, I mean, we're talking on average somewhere in the region of 5 years, depending on the building.
And what's your forecast for the future, James, in terms of the current state of progress in developing smart buildings and smart building technology and solutions? Where are we? And where are we going?
Yeah, I think we again, is it like give it a B-, I guess. That would be my score.
Okay,
at the
good.
moment.
All right.
No, I mean, what I'm saying is, of course, like, one of the things about this business is, we're not starting with a blank sheet of paper. And I think I'm alluded to that within the presentation. There are stakeholders within construction, who are trying to digitize, who are trying to evolve. It's difficult. But of course, then we're getting, an influx of new companies, new startups with understand technology as well. They're helping to energize the business. So yeah, I think the future's pretty bright, but there are challenges to be sorted out for sure.
I was once a B- student, and I turned out to be an A student. There's
There you
room
go.
for growth, and that's only a good thing. And again, people really seem to like your take around purpose. Jack sending you also, buildings really need to have purpose, not just for desk and coffee. So there you go. Not just for that, there is a greater purpose to these buildings, and thank you for bringing that forward. Also, looking at the results of our poll quickly here, already implementing 40%. So we have very active people and planning to deploy within the next 3 months, 24%. So that's 64% already with a lot of skin in the game, but 28% are still thinking. So this is actually maybe a B minus turnout on the poll. You are correct. James, thank you so much for your time today. That's very, very nice. And I want to tell everybody, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for these great questions. Thank you for putting in your comments. And also, if you want to be active on Twitter or social media, we do have a hashtag today. And our hashtag today is hashtag IoT Solutions Summit. Hashtag IoT Solutions Summit is our hashtag today. Please be active on social media. And now, ladies and gentlemen, I want to give the floor to the CEO and co-founder of Haltian. He will be talking to us about what makes a building become a smart building and how to make one. Pasi Leipälä, welcome.
Hello, everybody, and nice to meet you all behind the camera. So there is a big group of people from a huge amount of countries, and thank you for James for bringing the insights on the smart buildings. And I will be continuing on the same topic, that what makes buildings smart and how to create them. And as James was mentioning, so it's quite wide area and there are different aspects, and many of you are already working in the smart buildings area. As mentioned, 40% have been already implementing this, and 23% planning to do it soon, and rest probably a bit later. So we can be discussing also about this, what is smart and what is a building quite much. And as James mentioned, so there needs to be a purpose for everything, and there are different aspects. And we can be also comparing this, that there is also different definition of the smart people. So people can be smart in mathematical point of view, they can be smart in languages, they can be smart socially, or they can be smart football players in tactics point of view. So there is huge amount of definitions. And of course it's a bit similar thinking can be applied to buildings there. But there are some commonalities in the methods how they can be made smart one way or another, and those are typically the common ones. Everything starts typically from gathering data from various sources related to building, meaning that, for example, occupancy data, environmental parameters, it can be weather forecast from the internet, it can be calculating of how many people have been going there, it can be the settings of the HVAC system or whatever. And then the data needs to be transferred something. So it's then about the processing and integrating the data, combining it some way. And then James very well brought this up, that the design and planning phase and building phase takes only about 5 years maximum on the building, and then 60 years it's about using the building. And then there are the people who are using it one way or another. I will be coming back to this later. But then it's about bringing data visible to the people or to other machinery. And then the final step is utilizing the data somehow. So these are the typical stages, what you probably are aware of. Then one key question is that who we are dealing with. So who do we want to be making the building smart? Is it, in the beginning, is it the construction company? Is it the design company? Is it the building owner or investor? Is it then in the usage phase, the facility management company? Is it the cleaning company? Or is it the tenant company who's then using the building? Or is it during the 60 years phase, is it the end user, i.e. employee in commercial buildings, or the other ones? Or is it someone else? Or is it CFO of these? And when we are thinking about this, so of course, always there is a human behind of this one. And we should be thinking when we are making this smart, the human aspect. It should be one way or another human-centric. And our thinking is that there should be a common building user interface in each of the buildings. That's the way to make them smart. By the way, in that picture on the right side, so there is the Edge building from Amsterdam. I think that's one of the most famous smart buildings done, and it was built some years ago, but it's still one of the benchmark that what can be done and others. And one of the key messages from the companies who are working there, Deloitte, that it's one of the key aspects in their company to attract talented employees. As we know, so in some areas there is a big competition ongoing of getting good employees and attract those talented employees. So this is one aspect in the competition. Then there is huge amount of possibilities which kind of data can be utilized. Typical ones are environmental data on temperature, humidity, air pressure, which can be then made available for the end user that they are able to select a convenient place to work. Or then it can be used the combination of the HVAC to control the AC items. More specifically on air quality, for example, CO2, total TVOC values, or even radon gases can be detected there. And then during this strange year, the occupancy data usage has been getting very popular for the needs that it's possible, for example, to get the occupancy data of the desks and rooms, the usage rates, then to show the free meeting rooms, you are able to make visitor calculations and for the demand-based cleaning. So you're, for example, able to calculate if there has been a certain amount of people in the room, and then you are able to make the cleaning part there. Then one big thing is the location of people and assets. For example, you are able to see where are your colleagues, if they are sharing their position. And then, for example, in hospitals, nurses can be saving huge amount of their time when they are, for example, able to find wheelchairs online. So they are able to check from their app that, okay, they should be getting a wheelchair, and they are able to get it exactly into place, instead of wandering into huge corridors in the hospitals and taking half an hour to find a specific wheelchair. Smart buildings can be helping, for example, on this one. Then, in many cases, for example, protecting a technology point of view, detecting water leakages in warehouses or other buildings, having different kind of fill rate measurements in dispensers, for example, in washrooms, toilet paper dispensers, toilet paper dispensers, trash cans, and they are also part of this demand-based cleaning. Now that the office buildings their usage level is varying a lot at the moment. So there are people working remotely or at the office, or there are visitors or others. So it's quite inefficient to make these typical time-based cleaning circles or rounds instead of making those demand-based. So they should be only cleaned when they have been used. If there has been 2 weeks that nobody has been using the premises, so there is no need for cleaning. But if you have methods to measure when there has been people using that one, so then you're going to be doing that demand-based cleaning. Then, of course, these technical items, what also James mentioned about this HVAC controlling, measuring power and water meters, remote reading of those, they are typical use cases. And for example, lighting control is one thing. So controlling lighting in a way that doing the energy savings, or then getting the convenient lighting for the different working occasions and needs to make employees work in the optimal lighting always. So there is huge amount of different data possible to be used there. Then we are going into more details in technology. And McKinsey, a famous consulting company, last year published a study where they defined the different layers of IoT solutions, for example, the smart buildings, and then about technology maturity, and then also the market size. And it's showing, starting from the bottom, that there is devices, which are connected devices one way or another, which are the data gathering points. Then connectivity, where the data is transferred somehow into further use. Then next step is to enable platforms and cloud computing where the data is processed and stored. And then enabled platforms mean that there needs to be some kind of a maintenance function in the devices what you are controlling there. So for example, there would be endpoint protection and access management, and then also, for example, monitoring of the system usage, and then updates on the devices in software point of view. And then on top of the ecosystem is the business application. That's where the actual value is coming, and it's showed in the best way. And it shows that technology maturity here is quite low, but then market growth outlook and market size is huge there. But that might be also the most difficult one to get it right in a way that the most value can be brought from the data what is collected from the IoT solution. Related to this, just to note that Haltian is providing all of these layers there, and I think it's a very rare proposal or proposition in the market, meaning starting from the sensor devices, different connectivity items, doing the enabled platform, we call it Things Operations Cloud, and then now we have also this large-scale business application called Empathic Building. And then we have also developed all of this ourselves, so we have full technology access there, so they have not been outsourced to somebody else or manufactured in Far East countries or whatever. So we have full control of everything. So this means that we have been able to create high-level security there and also the scalability part. So we are able to adjust and adapt and also open that to other players when needed. As James showed, so the new building creation phase takes only about 5 years of the 65 years period, and then there is this 60 years period of that already been used, and the main technical solutions have been already done. And it's utterly important to enable the smart creation, smart building creation, also to old buildings. And it practically means that in order to keep the investment cost and the installation cost in a reasonable level, the devices and the data collection layer should be wirelessly connected. It should be as much battery powered as possible in order to avoid expensive wiring and others. And then it needs to be flexible for different UIs, what's needed during the life cycle of the system. And those have been the principles when we have been designing the Thingsy IoT platform. So we have very wide range of Thingsy wireless sensors. So they're about this size, and installation of one sensor typically takes 1 minute or even less. So you don't need to be doing any wiring there, just place it in the right place, and then it automatically routes into gateway, which just requires a USB plug, and you are able to have hundreds of sensors behind one gateway, very cost efficient there. And then all of these are maintained in this operations cloud there. And then 2 options for utilizing the data. So we are providing API for third-party applications. So if there is some specific application or you want to be using third-party applications, so that's possible. Very easy API, typically 1 line of code to get the data over there. And then we are using mostly, and in many cases, Empathic Building application, which can be used or called also as a user interface for a building. So most of the use cases can be covered with this Empathic Building app. Tomi Teikko will be telling a bit later on what's actually the Empathic Building application there. So, meaning that it's possible to make smart buildings already in the construction phase, but also as a retrofitting phases. And technology anymore is not a problem. There is a lot of technology available. Then the challenges are that are you able to get this easy installation? Is it scalable? Is it reliable? Is it secure? Can you get it as a plug and play that it really works? Our customer said that we were asking that why they selected us. So they said that, well, your system just works. And then added a note that, and that's the highest compliment in this technology space. Okay, I guess that was really good one. But that's all from me at the moment. Thank you.
Thank you, Pasi. A lot of questions have come up during your presentation, which is great. But before we tackle them, if it's okay, I noticed that you have a very convenient slide called Examples of Data. Examples of Data slide, a very good slide that we're using for this poll. And I remind you that you go to the poll by going first to the menu tab, and from the menu tab to vote, and then there is this poll. And if you could take a look at the poll, it is basically that slide. So what data is important for you in smart buildings? Please let us know which data is important for you in smart buildings projects, and we'll take a look at that. But let's take all these questions, and we have little time, but let's try to get most of them in. So the first person who's asking you a very technical, well, maybe an obvious question from somebody coming from Oulu is Janne, who asks, what do you think 5G enables for smart buildings? The 5G question.
You need to be taking quite longer look on what's 5G and what's not the case. So practically, we are already using 5G connections in the smart buildings. So it enables wide cellular coverage. So practically LTE category M1 is a part of 5G standard already, and it enables also efficient transfer of data from kind of rare data points. So, but if there is a lot of data points around each other, so then it's sufficient to use mesh network. But okay, mesh network is also part of the ETSI standards nowadays. So there is good progress there, but in the short term, I would not say that it's any revolution. But maybe in 10 years there will be new standards coming from the 5G.
Okay. And there's been other questions also on connectivity, so I'll take another type of question. This one is on the ecosystem we're going to be talking about a little bit later in our discussion, in panel discussion. So Jay asks you, who is the key player to implement IoT solutions for smart buildings? Is there, or so is it an ecosystem?
It depends on the life cycle of the building. If you're thinking what is the longest life cycle or the longest part of the life cycle, so that's the active use. So typically it might be even to HR function, because if the HR wants to make sure that they are able to provide the best possible end user experience, so it should be HR. It also could be CFO, meaning that you are able to get savings, for example, in the facility management companies or the investors. So there are many items, but I would be saying that if the CFO and HR are agreeing that this needs to be done, so then it will be done.
Usually that's the way it works, indeed. And a data protection question. So this is Nazrul from Muistek Oy, who asks you, who would be the owner of the data in a smart house, he writes. There will be many types of data. Some may be individual services providers, or some could be property owner of the building, and some are personal data. Who will control this data and follow and monitor it?
Very good question, and it needs to be also thought in many ways. So first of all, of course, if you are starting to share your personal data, so there are strict rules. What are you able to share and what do you want to be sharing, and it's always kind of a permission needed, and then you are practically the owner of the data. Mm-hmm. And then if you are thinking about kind of a general technical items, so the owner of that data is the owner of the building. And then, for example, if there is some general statistics of your own office usage, so then the owner of the data is the tenant or the user of the building.
And then my final question to you is one that comes up, I'm sure, quite often. And Tom is asking this question, and thank you, Tom. Is it possible to satisfy both employees and CFOs?
Definitely yes.
So it's affordable, obviously, and it's worth it, obviously.
Yes, it is. And then, of course, the CFO needs to be also thinking these longer-term benefits, that if the employees, you are able to get the excellent employees, when you are able also to get good productivity from the employees, and then you are having the data which enables you for the savings also in technical point of view, and, for example, premises uses percentage over you. So I think also CFO needs to be taking quite a wider view than typically is the Excel number on this month, but you need to be taking a longer look on this one.
I hope we have several CFOs listening to this, watching us today. But let's take a look at the result of the poll, Pasi. Look, so in terms of the data, we have it's 31% for occupancy data, seems to be like the number one that is interesting for the people listening today. And then after that, tied are environmental data, air quality data, and location of people and assets. Those are definitely the top three. What do you think of that, Pasi?
I think this was in line what I expected.
There you go.
Yeah.
We are in line. Very good. Pasi, thank you so much for this, and we're going to be getting back with you towards the end of the event. But before that, as you mentioned, we have the head of Empathic Building at Haltian coming on stage, talking to us about how can a digital twin create better employee experience. And he is Tomi Teikko. Welcome.
Hello, everybody. Like already said, my name is Tomi, and I'm here to talk about digital twin, which is an interesting thing and something about empathic building. But before we go to the empathic building, I want to spend few minutes with digital twin concept. Here we can actually see two different type of digital twins in this picture. And it's actually the same building, but in a higher picture, there is quite many things missing. And what is missing from that digital twin? It's actually the content, real-time content. So for clarity, let's call this up version of the digital twin BIM model. BIM model is like a 3D floor plan and a digital copy of the building also. And digital twin in my narrative and my story, which I will tell you, is about the human-centric content. And let's say, have you ever heard about the story that BIM model is solving your end-user daily problems? Have you ever heard a story about that you are going to meet a customer, you are going to go and visit a big, large corporation, and you are going into this building, you are coming into the lobby, you see big screen there, you see the BIM model, and this BIM model tells you where is your meeting, where you are supposed to meet your customer. You have never heard of that type of story, because BIM models and the structure and the digital copy of the physical building doesn't actually solve any daily problem of the end user. And now, if you don't remember anything else from my presentation today, remember that the digital twin, which is actually a digital copy of the physical environment, created a digital copy. It's the same, but digital. The only one that can solve end-user problems, they actually matter. All BIM models and other type of digital twins, you can... Yeah, okay, let's go on. Empathic building. What is empathic building? Empathic building is the digital twin, but it solves actual end-user problems. And by solving end-user daily problems, it creates the value to our customers. Okay, now you are wondering how this happens. And I would a little bit spend time before we go to the practical examples with the value proposition, which is better employee experience. So the best digital twin that you can ever buy from the market currently is the one that creates better employee experience. Why? It is because if your day is smooth, let's say that the digital twin brings the invisible data visible in your daily situations, and you don't need to spend time for searching things, and things just flow smoothly. What happens is that the end user will be more happier. Yeah, they will smile, they will act happy, they will actually share the happiness. And what that means then, that this happy person is going to perform. And what is the company who doesn't want the employees to perform? I cannot now see your hands. I wonder that did someone actually raise a hand and said that, no, I don't want my employees to perform. Okay, then you are not our customer. That's fine. But only the performing people, they make your company success. They bring you more money, more customers, more revenue, more profitability. It's so simple. It's actually super simple. And before we go to the practical examples, what technology and the digital twin can solve during your normal day at the office, let's call it normal day at the office, where you meet your digital twin. Before we go there, we need to understand that the full employee experience is not only the technology, the apps and the access control and the things you use, lunch payments or bookings or whatever. It's not only the technology. Of course, the physical space, what type of layout you have. Is there areas that I can concentrate? Is there a phone booth if I need to take a call during the day so that my colleague can keep coding and will not be interrupted by me? And then, of course, the work culture. And we need to remember that especially in the large corporations, the work culture can vary. Even inside of the one organization, there are multiple teams, multiple business units, and there can be different work cultures that we also need to cater. There is no such thing as a HR manual, one-size-fits-all manual that can cater all different cultures, but the future digital twins, they actually can. All right, now let's go to the practical examples, because we have already seen this kind of technology stack we are talking about. For example, in our Haltian, we have the full stack to provide from the user interface to the lowest level of sensor and so on. But we need to remember one thing. We need to integrate this data into the daily lives, because only in IoT, the integration layer actually brings value. It's not the sensor. It's important, sensor, and how reliable they are. Like our sensors made in Oulu or Haukipudas, very reliable and secure, as you have already heard. Sensors, they are important. Gateways, they are important. Data lake, big data, and the platform. Of course, that's important, but none of that actually solves those daily problems. And to be honest, they are always a cost when talking about end-to-end services to our end customers. They are just a cost if their actual value layer is missing. And Empathic Building is the digital twin that integrates the sensor and human-created content to the one user interface, which solves the daily problems of the end users. It actually doesn't solve one huge problem and the most expensive problems that typically CFOs are seeking. Can your solution, instantly save 10 million euros for me in next 6 months. No, it doesn't do that. But what it does, it solves 25 small ones during the day. And those are, think about if you have a situation during your workday that you don't know where your colleagues are, you are a little bit missed from the scheduled meeting, you don't remember where the meeting room was, which was called Linnanmäki, I don't know, was it in 3rd floor, I cannot remember. Or where are the documents from the project management? I cannot even remember the name of the project manager, and so on and so on. We have 25 of those small things missing during our workday when talking about the knowledge working environments. And Empathic Building is solving those all. You don't need to search. And how we integrate is the info screens. Yes, Empathic Building actually works perfectly on mobile phone. It's actually the, I cannot say only, but let's say one of the only digital twins on this planet which runs smoothly on mobile phone without extensively big and long loading times. It's a perfect on mobile, but there is an extra 5 to 7 seconds that you need to spend during your day. For example, where is the meeting room called Paris? I think it was there, or I think it was there, or let me take my phone. Yeah, that's a bad user experience. So that's why we bring the digital twin using the info screens and touch screens to the daily life of the end user. This is how we integrate. And this is very important how to integrate. Because if you want to take the full benefit of the user interface of the building, do not hide it to the inside structure of intranet or put it to the wrap it as an app and put it to the store where you need to know, okay, now I'm in this building, I need to download this app, and no. Provide the data in the daily situations of the end user. And that's how you get these motivated, happy, and performing people. And now, it's not the cost-saving thing. And this is one thing what I hate. I hate the word productivity when we are talking about the knowledge working environments. You cannot measure people productivity. No, you can't. But you can measure happiness. And you just need to believe me that the happy people, they are productive. They perform maximum. Let's have a practical example. One of my favorites all the time, and one of the first use cases we ever solved with Empathic Building user interface. Meeting room booking. All right, now I do this virtual poll. Hand up, audience who loves book meeting rooms. Ha! I don't see any hands. Yes, exactly. That's an admin work that no one actually wants to do. No one doesn't want to book meeting rooms. But we do it in our daily lives. Why? Well, because we have the real-time data and the digital data and the Empathic Building missing. Because with the real-time data, when you see which rooms are currently empty, where is the booking, when the next booking happens, you actually don't need to book room beforehand. And it's not the time saving. Let's say that if I meet 3 customers every day, and when we were actually in the physical offices, and soon we will go back to those offices again and meet face to face. Let's say that, and I spend 5 minutes per booking. It's maybe 10 minutes every day I save that I don't book meeting rooms. And it's not the 10 minutes I have saved which makes me happy, but the fact that I don't need to do the work, what I hate. I hate admin work. I hate room booking. I know there is people like management assistants who are actually, I have heard that they actually love to book, and that's totally fine. But me as an end user, I don't like that. But then there is plenty of small things that even management assistants doesn't want to do. They don't love to, do those invoices and stuff like that. There is multiple things that we can automate nowadays. And trust me, if you are now considering to invest digital twin or BIM model, if you have a BIM model which cannot solve anybody's problems, it's actually just a cost for you, or you have an empathic building and the digital twin which solves end user problems in their daily lives, which one you will select? Of course, you will select the empathic building because that's the correct key of your company success in a short and especially in a longer period of time, especially if you are investing to the employee experience and you want to attract talent and you want to be a leader. Only the leading companies are selecting empathic buildings and rest will follow. Same actually happens in hospital environment, and I think after now my story, you can imagine what would be those things that can help nurses to survive in their daily life. Thanks for listening.
Thank you, Tomi. Wow, what a keynote. Thank you so much for that. We got a lot of questions. We don't have time to take them all, but our friends at Haltian will be answering all comments and questions, at least online. But from you, and my favorite line was, forget productivity. Let's focus on happiness. And let's focus on that with this first question from Jeff, who asks very simply, what is the biggest benefit for end users and that they get from using a digital twin and empathic buildings? So what is the biggest benefit? Is it happiness? Or what is it?
Yeah, well, the happiness is outcome.
Yeah.
I think the biggest benefit is that you actually don't need to spend time for searching. Think about you suddenly all the data is there. You have a full visibility to everything, where your colleagues are, where your documents are, where are the rooms, and so on. That's it. And that's, like I said, 25 small ones, not one huge one.
And that makes you more productive in the end, doesn't it?
More performance.
More performance. Okay.
Yeah. CFOs are talking about productivity.
Yes, and there are a few online, so let's be nice. Okay. So Risto K asks you, digital twins, are they also available for older building, or are they only for buildings they already have design made by digital systems?
Really good question. Our digital twin is the most cost efficient to implement. It's first of all, it's a multi-tenant solution. It's one of the rare ones. So we don't create anything building specific. And actually we can deliver even the retrofit if you have let's call them shitty floor plans, which we receive quite a lot.
Yes, we know those. Yeah.
Without no scale, you need to measure. We can deliver one day, same day.
That's amazing. Wow. Very efficient.
Yes.
And Tuomo asks you this question. Lighting is as important as HVAC when it comes to ecological and comfort aspects. What's the role of lighting in Haltian's smart building vision?
It's not even a vision, actually. We have a working solution which can change the color of the light depending of the personal preferences of the end user. For example, what you are doing. And let's say that if I need to concentrate, we can provide light that helps you to concentrate. Or if you want to be super active or collaborate, we can provide light colors that can support that. So it's not a vision. It's a reality
It's
already.
a reality.
Yeah,
it's
it is.
there.
Yes.
It's available now. And we're getting people asking you, how do you measure happiness? And wonder, well, you know, Finns are the most happy people in the world already, but they can be happier with these kind of solutions, I'm sure. And you know, one thing that intrigued me from your past, you were a developer in your past. Yeah. How the hell did somebody get involved in this kind of business with your background? And the creation of this empathic vision.
Yeah, well, the brutal answer is that I was not really good developer. So I ended up to the management positions of managing developers. But of course, it helped to understand a little bit how ones and zeros, how they work. Of course, it makes sense. But then also I spent almost 5 to 6 years in an HR company. Or HR consulting company, and that inspired me to the human topics.
Thus, the happiness as the goal. And thank you for this very inspiring talk. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to be talking about the ecosystems around smart building in our next session. But before that, we're going to give you an entire 5-minute break. We call this biotauko in this country, don't we?
Yes.
We call it biotauko. So we're going to give you a break, a bio break of 5 minutes, and we'll be back for a roundtable discussion around the ecosystems in smart building. Well, hello everyone, and welcome back to the second half of our IoT Solutions Summit. And what a first half we've had, but wait until you see what's happening in the second half with our roundtable discussion on IoT ecosystems. I remind you that we would love to have your comments and questions, so please go to the menu and to the voting tab and to the comments or to the messaging tab. Take a look at what people are talking on the chat. Our people are very active in the back room answering those questions and comments, so please put them in there and we can use them to entertain questions for our speakers and panelists. I also encourage you to use the hashtag today, so hashtag IoT Solutions Summit, hashtag IoT Solutions Summit. Please, caring is sharing, and I'm sure your networks and your ecosystems will be happy you did. Ladies and gentlemen, we kick off the second half of our summit today by re-inviting to the stage the Vice President of Sales and Marketing at Haltian to talk to us about reliable and open IoT ecosystem to scale smart building developments. Janne Kilpeläinen, welcome.
Well, hello everyone on my behalf as well. Hope you have enjoyed the summit so far. So what I'm going to cover is a little bit on the ecosystem part. So what does it make to scale and what have we done with it, as well as the invitation to collaborate on that aspect as well. A lot of companies use this statement, Internet of Things made easy nowadays, and we do it as well. But is it really so? And that's why the question mark there on the heading as well. There's lots of technology choices that customers need to do when they deploy IoT in their smart buildings. And especially when you want to retrofit any existing building, there's a lot of decisions that you need to take. And sometimes you might actually be a little bit lost as well, how to do those deployments within the smart buildings. So choices like what kind of sensors I need, how are they connected, how do I manage the support, what kind of SLAs I need to deploy, what happens with the security of those devices, and so on. So there's a lot of decisions that you need to actually do when planning on IoT solution for the building. People, at the end of the day, they also want choice. They don't want vendor lock-ins as such. People want interoperability as well. And this is the constant message that we get from our customers as well. And interoperability is a kind of like a key as well, and part of the decision making for those people deploying the solutions. However, a lot of vendors are working in silos at the moment as well within smart building ecosystem itself. And interoperability is a huge concern for those people as well, because the investments that you do in real estate, those usually last for years. So the decisions you are taking today are carried forward for years forward as well. And the investments are really for the long term. And people often forget about the kind of like a total cost of ownership that's involved with the IoT solution. And it's kind of like a hidden behind the complexity of these different choices that you need to do. So you may be focusing on single part of the solution, for example, platform or sensors themselves. So you optimize one thing, but you forget the implication on 2, 3, 4, 5, many other things as well. So we know IoT is hard. And there's a lot of things that we've done to make it as easy as possible to deploy as well. And one of the things that are really essential to the deployment of the IoT solutions in smart buildings is the connectivity. So how to make sure that the sensors you deploy are sending the data as reliable as possible to the applications where the data is then used. So over the years, we've gone through pretty much all the connectivity solutions in the market. And we are really happy partners of Wirepas deploying the Wirepas mesh connectivity, for example, with our sensor solution as well. And that's by far the best connectivity solution within the smart building area. It's scalable, so you can pretty much run millions of devices within single network as well. So there's no limitation, for example, how many devices you can actually run within as well. One of the key benefits of combining, for example, our sensors with Wirepas is the long battery lives as well. So it's pretty much steal and forget kind of things. The batteries are lasting for years, so you don't need to constantly change the batteries, for example. And we can monitor the battery levels over the air as well. So we can see after years, for example, that what are the battery levels in each sensor. So we can plan the battery changes after years of use. Wirepas is extremely reliable within the building environment. Every building is quite different from each other. You never know what's the impact of walls or floors in that building for the radio signal. You might end up setting sensors in a room with walls full of steel cages, for example. And obviously that impacts on it. But having that mesh capability allows us to create a mesh network with the sensors that actually reliably sends the data from those facilities where we place the sensor, depending on or regardless of the use cases that we use those sensors for. And of course, over-the-air updates, that's one of the key feature and functionality of it as well. So allowing that two-way communication. So sensors are sending data, but they are also receiving commands over the air for feature updates or software updates or configuration setup changes as well. And of course, security is in everyone's mind when they deploy any IT solutions, whether it's IoT or anything else as well. And that's covered with the end-to-end security that the solution provides. Picture tells more than 1,000 words. So here's an example of Thingsy Tower as we speak. You can see that we can cover pretty much the whole building in a couple of gateways. Again, thinking of the kind of like a cost of ownership, because the typically gateways are slightly more expensive than the sensors. And then you have the sensors put across the facilities within that building as well. So we can cover the whole building with just a couple of gateways and lots of different types of sensors supporting different use cases as well. So what we are actually doing today, so together with Wirepas and Prologis, we are kind of like inviting all our current partners as well as future partners in building this kind of like an ecosystem for the benefit of everyone involved in it, and especially our end customers as well. And what we are doing in practice is that we are opening up how the sensors and gateways are connected to each other. So that allows any third-party vendor to join us in creating different use cases for our customers as well. And the key really is the centralized device management as well. And that's a key thing for scalability as well. With the proper device management, allows you to manage that device lifecycle in a way that you can predict and manage the costs involved with that as well. And what that does in practice is for example, firmware updates, configurations. You can create installation applications, for example, as well. But then also provide that kind of like a support and maintenance model that allows the customers to focus on running their business instead of managing an IoT device network, for example. And that's the kind of like a key as well. Typically our customers, for example, they are not in IoT business. They do anything and everything other than IoT. So IoT is not their core business. So that's why we have created the model where we provide this as a service as well. So all this is at the end of the day enabling the kind of like a scalable, multi-vendor, smart building solution and ecosystem with many different supported use cases that our customers want. And it gives them that kind of like a trust as a future proof solution that lasts for years as well. And based on they can build their applications and services, for example. So that's pretty much my part. Great prelude as well for our panel. So thank you everyone for tuning in. Hopefully stay in for the next panel discussion.
And what a great prelude it was. Thank you so much. And in our roundtable, we're going to be discussing with representatives of companies you mentioned in your presentation. We're going to be talking with people who represent Prologis and represent Wirepas. Stay tuned. And now we'd like to welcome these two fine gentlemen to our discussion today. We have a round table. It's a very small round table, but it's still a round table discussion, a virtual round table with you gentlemen. So welcome to both the Vice President of IT Architecture and Emerging Technologies at Prologis, Robbert Heekelaar. Robbert, welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
And we have the Senior Vice President at Wirepas, Jani Vehkalahti. Welcome.
Thank you. Happy to be here as well.
Janne said such nice things about you in his presentation. Did you hear that?
Yeah, I'm flushed.
Well, it's for good reason. But ladies and gentlemen, I'd like to kick off our discussion with an honest discussion. Let's take the gloves off. I'd like to know, why was it so important for you to attend this particular roundtable discussion? For Janne, I understand it's maybe a no-brainer, but you guys, why is it so important to show up at this roundtable discussion with us today?
So I think we both are like Evan. So, okay. Sorry, Robert.
Go ahead, Jani.
Too many people today are focusing that the first 5% that are already connected. And then there's this 95% that needs to be still connected. And that's what makes us passionate to focusing, to kind of helping the companies to connecting that 95% of the things. And we cannot do that alone. So we need a partner like Haltian, which are making that easy. They make the end-to-end solution. And not only to make the solution available, but also educate the market that this is already today, it's available, and you should just start.
So it's like a marriage, I can't make it without you. I just can't make it without you. That's what you mean.
Very well.
How nice. Robert, what's your motivation for tuning in today?
You said it's like a marriage, and we have kind of a 3-year relationship already. So, you should help your partners. That's the first reason, obviously, but we also have a little bit of a more selfish reason. And I think that Janne already touched upon that in his prelude. We have done a lot of research in our lab, and we have concluded that Haltian, including Wirepas, is the best solution out there for us. And we do use the cloud, and it will be great to help to grow that Haltian ecosystem that Janne was talking about. So that's the reason why I'm here, just to help.
Well, that's fantastic to be, both altruistic and also, a little bit self-serving. It's completely fine. We understand, and that's the whole point. It's a win-win situation. I have a confession to make to our audience is that I usually hate roundtable discussions. I love the panelists in this case, obviously, but I really dislike the format. But we have found innovative ways. We have 3 great innovators here. Innovative ways of capturing the substance in ways that is more engaging. And I want you to be a part of this. Everybody at the office or at home right now is that I put a question to them earlier, which is a sort of a meta question for our roundtable is, what is most important for you in an IoT solution? What is the most important thing for you in an IoT solution? But I didn't ask them to submit a 50-page report. I asked them to submit us a single symbolic picture. And I'd like you to play a little game with us, is that I'm going to put on this wonderful super screen the first picture. And now, as you can see, I told them to have a wonderful poker face. You can't tell. You're smiling too much. Poker face. So go to the vote and to the poll and try to find out whose pictures is this? Is this picture, in your opinion, Robert's picture? Is it Jani's picture? Or is it Janne's picture? Lasagna, Jani, Robert, they're doing a great job now. You're still smiling too much, but it's okay. And try to tell us who you think is who the picture is. And I can see here that for the lasagna, we are getting already the most votes for, and that might change, but I'm going to start with this. It seems Jani, the audience think that this is your picture. Is this your picture, Jani?
Looks like I had a bad poker face because they tried to kind of guess that it's me, but it's not me.
It's not you. Okay.
No.
Tell us, Janne, Robert, whose picture is this?
Yep, it's mine.
Excellent poker face. I don't want to play poker against you, Robert. You look perfect. But could you please tell us why?
Yeah.
What were you thinking? How does a lasagna have any relevance to IoT smart building solutions? How?
Now, I think we all know that it's quite difficult to explain IoT to a lot of people and to a lot of business people. And we try to visualize things in a nice way. And what's better than to talk about Italian food, right? So you have different kinds of Italian food, but let's take 2. We have lasagna and we have spaghetti. And that's how we actually can separate 2 kinds of IoT solutions. So think of the spaghetti, right? These long strings. These represent the companies that, that tell you, we have it all, don't worry about it. It's just, we have the sensor, we have the platform, we have the visualization tools, we give you a dashboard, an app, etc. That is one thing. That's the spaghetti model. while we, as Prologis, we're looking more for the layered model. And there is the lasagna, right? So you have different layers in the solution. So you have a sensor layer, you have a backend layer or a data layer, et cetera, et cetera. So you have all kinds of layers that you can actually build on, and you actually want to have these layers quite independent from each other. You'd like to be able to switch out vendors in every layer. You like to integrate or merge in new technologies in a later stage. So you want to be as flexible as possible, and that's why I chose this lasagna picture. Just full layers that you can actually, fill yourselves.
I will never eat a lasagna the same way again. I think that you changed my perspective. What a wonderful metaphor. Gentlemen, what do you think of this?
I think it's a beautiful metaphor for working kind of like a horizontally instead of vertically in a silos. So really good example.
Yeah, great story and full packet with the facts. So this is exactly how we also see the IoT world, that you need to build a system and solutions where you are independent on the different layers, because you cannot foresee the future. So you need to be independent in the different layers. IoT will be a multi kind of tenant way that there is many use cases and many needs going further.
No, and just elaborate a little bit on it. That's the tricky part, obviously, because the spaghetti model is quite easy to sell to business people. Don't worry, we got you. The problem is that you most probably will end up with 20 different apps that will only show you one thing.
Thank you for that. Very, very insightful. People in the audience are not that insightful on this one. Your intuition is pretty bad, because the ultimate votes put actually Janne as the number one lasagna person, and then Jani, and Robert only had 3, so they didn't get that. So I'm giving you a chance to get this right, and it's the next picture.
Does it mean that Janne looks like a lasagna person?
Well, or that he loves Italian food. I mean, I'm not going to go into their heads.
Yeah, that was my poker face to fool the audience.
Exactly, and you did a great job. And you did a great job. But don't do it again. Well, you can if you want. It's their fault. All right. So this is the picture. This is either Jani's or Janne's picture, obviously. So, ladies and gentlemen, please go to the poll. And this time I want you to do a better job. So you go to the table poll, and I would like to see, I'm going to actually, I can even vote from here. This is pretty cool. And again, this is pretty cool. So hey, so the table I am getting Janne. Now we are starting. Janne, it seems that you are ahead in the vote. Tell me.
Is that too obvious?
It's a table with a sensor. So I mean, it has to be you, right? Or is this your picture?
It's not.
It's not.
It's not.
Oh, let's see how the vote continues. We do have a small lag, ladies and gentlemen. So, Jani, you were good with the poker face. Could you explain? It seems to be a pretty average picture of a desk and a mouse and some kind of sensor. But could you explain why this, in your opinion, is the most important thing in IoT solutions?
Sure, and I managed to fool the audience because I picked a picture where there's a Haltian sensor, so directing that to Janne. The reason why I picked this is because I think that the scalability is the most important thing. And this is not necessarily something that you think in the beginning. And this is exactly like when you look this picture, that you see the one sensor, one day. And then you automatically think that you go forward. You just add the next table and the next sensor, next table and the next sensor. And that's how the people are kind of get used to it, because we come from the world where we have used our cellular phones. If you buy one cellular phone or you buy 10 cellular phones, they all work. But when you go into IoT, what you need to design from the beginning is to think the scale. So is your successful project going to be 10 sensors or 100 sensors or 1,000 sensors in one building or tens of thousands of sensors? You need to know that from the beginning. This is not the feature that you can add later on. And that's a difficulty, because you need to really see and believe on your dream, that where you're going to be, and then you need to select the partners and the technologies accordingly. You cannot update that afterwards on the system level. And that makes it difficult. Okay, if you do the good lasagna model, like Robbert said, of course you can then maybe change there are different technologies that you scale in the backend and you scale in a sensor and a connectivity. But it's really like that when you start to kind of proceed in your project, so usually the first of the challenges on the scalability is that, okay, so how do I do the planning? Where do I put the sensors? Where do I put the coverage? So it's not about this kind of one room, but you need to have a one floor or the whole building. So that's the first level scalability. And then with that scalability, you kind of start to fear about the interference, which is affecting the reliability. So kind of scalability is kind of the full picture, and the scalability is also the system cost and the total cost of ownership. So are you paying subscription fees, because it's different for the 10 and a million devices. So I usually explain to my partners and our customers that the thing that are you going to be the 2 devices or 2 million devices or something in between. But you need to know that from the beginning.
Thank you, Jani. Gentlemen, what do you think of Jani's take on this?
Yeah,
scalability.
I think Jani touched a very important point, and if you think about IoT in general, it's quite easy to actually create a proof of concept or a small pilot, but things actually get quite a lot of more complicated when you need to scale that into millions of devices, for example, or even thousands of devices. So there's a lot of things that you need to actually figure out. So how am I going to install this? Yeah. How am I going to support this? What about the security? Do I need to manage that separately, or is it inbuilt? So there's a lot of things that you need to figure out before you start actually scaling.
Great. Robbert, what did you think? Your take on scalability?
No, I totally... scalability is extremely important, especially when you think about new deployments that you do. In many times, it will be a small use case that you're solving. I have an example that I can talk about later on. But if you just solve this small use case, and then people start to get a little bit more into IoT and start to get new ideas, like, oh, then I want to measure this as well. Oh, then I'd like to do this as well. Then you have to make sure that you have something in place that you can actually scale. So just put extra sensors in, and it will work right away. You should not be like starting small and then, oh man, we have to grow big. We have to find another solution. So it's all about scalability, and especially in the warehouses where we are at, then like literally scalability is also important, because these warehouses are huge, like now let's say 20,000 square meter. So it definitely has to be scalable then.
Yeah, I mean, I have unlimited appetite for lasagna. I mean, I want to eat as much as I can. It's my favorite. I'm half Italian, that's why. So that's, Okay. Hey, there's a final picture, and it's a no-brainer. Janne, take a look at your picture.
Yeah.
How classy. Janne, I'm gonna ask you to stay quiet a little bit, and I'm gonna put your colleagues on the spot. One of them, at least. Guys, take a look at this beautiful picture. Can you see the picture?
Yes, we can.
All right. I'm gonna go with asking Robbert. Why do you think your colleague Janne chose a very stylish Porsche? It's a Porsche, isn't it? It's an old Porsche.
It is a Porsche.
Yeah, it's an old Porsche. What do Porsches and IoT smart buildings have in common? I can't understand, but maybe you can. What was going into his mind when he chose this picture, in your opinion?
I don't know. I see a beautiful car on a beautiful road. So,
any ideas of what he was thinking?
If I translate it then to Haltian, that car, it's a Porsche, so it's driving like smoothly. It's driving like pretty well.
Yes. But in terms of a benefit, the most important thing in IoT solutions, what does it represent? What do you think? Jani, can you help out?
I'll give you a story.
Give us a story.
So my first car that I ever bought.
This was your first car?
No.
Oh,
no,
okay.
No.
Okay.
But the first car I ever bought, it's close.
Okay.
Was 1964 Triumph Herald.
Ooh, nice.
Convertible, if I may add.
Nice.
So that was my first car that I bought with my own money for myself.
Yes.
And I thought I did a pretty good deal out of it.
Yes.
You know, cheap old car. But you know, soon after, you know, all the service, something breaks down.
Yeah. Well, in old cars, yeah, of course.
All the accessories.
Yes.
Lost opportunity costs when the car doesn't start and you're going somewhere on a
Ouch.
date, for example. and so
Exactly.
forth.
Yeah.
So thinking of it from the total cost of ownership, this kind of like reminds me of that. So
That's not Haltian, right?
No.
Okay.
So similarly thinking of IoT solution as well, that like I was saying in my previous presentation, that you can't really focus on one thing alone, but you need to think about the different elements that comes along with it. So
Yes.
you actually make a commitment on many different things when you start deploying IoT solution as well. So there's a connectivity cost as well, something related to that. Again, lost opportunity cost. So what happens if something breaks down?
Yeah.
Where do you get the support? What's the lost opportunity cost for your business if you all of a sudden doesn't get the data as well? How do you install the devices as well? So there's a cost of time as well involved in that as well. So there's a lot of different elements involved when you look at the whole thing from the total cost of ownership point of view as well. So it's not only sensors, it's not only about the cloud, there's a lot of different other things.
Buy your IoT systems the same way you buy a car. Total cost of ownership, scalability, and the layered approach as opposed to the silo approach. Beautiful insights. Thank you. Gentlemen, you have 1 minute each to give me your favorite micro story about IoT smart solutions. Let's give them whet their appetites with a micro story of success in IoT. You have 3 minutes. So 1 minute each.
Guests first?
Okay.
Yes, guess first. Robert.
Okay, let me start. 1 minute. So you have to start small. That's my advice. So one example is what we have. We call the pump room kit.
Yeah.
We have a lot of pump rooms in our warehouse, and these pump rooms need to be checked every week. So what we did is we put a few sensors in every pump room. So let's think of like 3 sensors and a gateway. And we start to monitor from a distance. And that made us, instead of going there once a week, once a month, which saved us more than 30 minutes per month. And if you do that times 4,700 warehouses, you save a lot of money. That within a minute?
Yes? Yeah, actually less. Congratulations. You're very effective. Thank you, Robert. Thank you. Jani.
Okay, so for me, the success story is that when you make a cleaning personnel enable to install a smartness in the existing things, you've been succeeding. And that's what the Haltian has been proving with the smart washroom case, that you don't need to educate the kind of very expensive installers to make this smartness in the existing assets. But actually the cleaning personnel, which is already there, the maintaining those, can actually do the installation. So you drive down the cost. So everybody are talking about the ease of installation. Haltian has really proven that on the field that it works.
Great.
Super. Thank you. And
So on my behalf,
I agree.
yeah.
I have an example of actually Empathic Building. And what I believe is that instead of one large problem, you should actually focus on solving a lot of small problems as well. And that actually results on a kind of like a positive outcome as well. And as a result of that one of our customers, for example, have given a nickname for Empathic Building. So amongst the employees, they call it Emppu.
Emppu.
And to me, that's a sign of success as well.
Absolutely. When you start giving nicknames like that, it's close to the heart. Gentlemen, we have come to the end of this roundtable discussion as a roundtable, but now we are opening the floor to all of you. So please send us some more comments. I got at least 2 that I can use. And now this comes from our audience to the 3 of you. And the one question comes from Mikko from Oman Building Automation, Oman.fi. And he asks the following question. Can you mention a couple of smart buildings which you have sensorized, quotation marks, and works as suitable building for users. Is there some case studies in Haltian or Wirepas websites on this?
Here's one living example of it.
Yeah.
Would you like to, Robert, explain further, or shall I?
Go, both of you. Both of you, please.
So if you go, for example, at the Helsinki airport,
Yes.
pretty much all the washrooms in that building, which is several kilometers point to point, all the washrooms actually have sensors in it, providing data for efficient cleaning. So you have sensors measuring number of people visiting those facilities, as well as sensors in the dispensers, indicating what's the fill rate of those dispensers. And combining this data for cleaners, they actually become much more effective.
Fascinating. Robert?
Yeah, there's super cool video about that use case.
I'm sorry?
There's super cool video about that use case.
And that's on your website or a Haltian website or both?
I think it's our website, but it will come as a part of the Haltian as well.
Okay, so Mikko is happy with his answer, I'm sure. Thank you, Mikko, for that question. And now we look at Johnny's question. Johnny is asking how to manage the battery change if there are millions of sensors.
That's a good question as well. So we can actually schedule it in advance as well. So if a customer has lots of sensors, we can monitor remotely what's the state of each sensor's battery-wise as well. And probably the right way is to schedule it as well area-wise, depending of course on the deployment where those sensors are placed. If those are in one location, it's easier. If it's in multiple locations, you can do it as well. Typically there are facilities management companies or facility service companies who can do that as well as a part of their service. But this is something that you plan years ahead when you start deploying the solution.
So Janne, that's probably a good addition to that. It's very difficult to replace sensors in a warehouse that is in full operation. So you have to plan it very well. So what we have been developing with Haltian now is a little, call it a power bank or like a bigger battery that we can put under the sensor that will actually extend the lifetime of the sensors from 5 years to 10 years. So that's for us even better to put it on the places where we don't want to replace them that often. So we worked together with Haltian, and that was quite successful.
Yeah, that's a good example as well.
Yes. And then a question on data from Risto K. Who owns and can upgrade the data delivered in clouds? Estimate for data lifetime.
From our point of view, data is anyways owned by the who actually uses and deploys it at the end of the day. A good example of a kind of like a complex value chain is this airport use case. So you have a company who installs the dispensers in the washroom, on behalf of the facility owner. And then the cleaners are actually utilizing that data for the cleaning. So pretty much each of these could own the data as well. And then it's just case by case who wants to own that data, who wants to make that leap in investing in it and then using that as part of their business as well. I'm sure Rob has a point of view of that as well because he works with his tenants on the facilities.
And I think the question is hinting towards privacy issues and how we handle data and the bigger picture on that one. Any thoughts, Robert?
Yeah, so it's a very good question. We always stay out of the GDPR side, so we'll never take like personal data from people. We own the data. That's our starting point. But we definitely make sure that our customers are aware of what we're doing with data, what kind of data we're getting. And we're sharing the data with them. So in that sense, like primarily we own the data, but we have an obligation to share it with our customers.
All right, gentlemen, we have reached the end of our Q&A. Thank you so much for participating in this unusual roundtable. But I think we did well. What do you think, Janne?
I think so, yes. Appreciate guys joining us virtually. Too bad, Jani, you couldn't make it in person, but you look nice online as well.
Yes, you look perfectly healthy. Hopefully that'll continue until we get, until well into next year. Stay healthy, stay safe, and thank you so much for participating today. To both of you.
Thank you for the invite.
Thank you, Jani.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank you. And Janne, thank you so much for this. And hey, we have your CEO. He's back.
Nice.
And he'll be closing our event today. Pasi Leipälä will be stepping on stage once again to talk about Haltia's next, as he writes here, leapfrog into the future and how you will benefit from it.
Okay, hello everybody again. So it has been a very good discussion and presentation, and I guess everybody have been learning from today. So I will be soon talking about the next steps for Haltian and then about the progress on different things. But before going on that one, so is there anybody in a company called Altia online? So I noticed that we have been advertising Altia all day pretty well. So Haltian or Altia there, and well, those who don't know, so Altia is the Finnish company who has the monopoly for selling alcohol there. So I guess we could be forming some kind of a cooperation here if needed. Okay, but for Haltian, what's next? Not Altia, Haltian. So trying to recap what we do at Haltian. So we offer IoT solutions in 3 levels. So in Empathic Building, so we are providing a complete stack, which is also open, meaning that with the end user interface, with the focus on employee satisfaction. Then our Thingsy IoT solutions, we are providing the IoT solutions on the data collection and data management, and then providing that the customers like Prologis, where they have their own application so far. And then we have these custom product development services where we are creating different kind of devices as a custom, and they can be utilized also in context of this IoT solution. So Robbert mentioned one use case in there, creating this power cover for the extended battery life. So it's also possible. And then when we are taking a look on Empathic Building, so the use cases are for the offices, for real estate, for a bit more technical items, and then hospitals. So I was explaining those and Tomi very well on those ones. Then IoT solutions, we have these off-the-shelf solutions which can be practically plug and play for data buyers in built world, inside buildings and outside of the buildings, and meaning that we have a great set of ready asset on different sensors, gateways, which can be installed as plug and play and will be getting the data immediately. And we are including also the different software tools for installing and also maintenance and SLAs. And one of the examples in this maintenance part is that we have been behind the Finnish postal services Postis a new packet delivery system, which they are expanding very fast. And actually our maintenance team is ensuring that Santa Claus is able to deliver their packages via Posti during this Christmas time. So we have 24/7 support over there. Then we have this tailored Thingsy solutions, meaning that we have the ready asset, which we can be combining and if needed, tailor asset. So it's possible to have this instead of a spaghetti approach, which practically is very much on this Empathic Building case, but then we are able to utilize different ready-made assets and then combine in the different ways with our engineering team there. And the big thing here is the third-party data sources in Wirepas ecosystem, so it's now available. And as a reminder, we are also doing a lot of these product development services, creating very complex devices, like special cameras, virtual glasses, wearables, bike computers, etc., which can be also thought as IoT devices there. So we are continuing there. But call for action. So we are happy to invite our partners and customers to integration of things, meaning that we invite all our partners to join our device management Wirepas ecosystem. So we are opening the interfaces and publishing the message network or message format on the sensor side, and then also enabling the possibility to utilize our device management cloud whenever needed. And what are the benefits for different stakeholders? Okay, let's start from the end users or the system users, our customers or the system customers. It means that when they are starting to utilize Thingsy asset, so it's not the vendor login. So it's possible to add pretty easily new kind of data sources there. It can be, in the best case, just plug and play. And you can be expanding the life cycle of the system quite much. As Robbert said, so it seems to be so that when you are starting from something, so then you want to be getting new kind of data sources in many cases. Then for our technology suppliers, it means that it's possible to get in within the customer cases with what we have and in the ecosystem what we are starting to form. So just doing the same message format and you are in there. And then for us, it also means that we are able to do more partnering. And I guess this is also a very good thing for Wirepas as well there. That's the invitation. I want to thank you from my behalf for the whole day. And hopefully we will be in touch soon. Thank you.
Pasi, it's the end of the event. How do you feel?
I'm pretty happy about the event for the reason that also there has been some new information for myself, and I'm pretty sure that there has been new informative items also for all the participants online also.
Absolutely, and at the beginning, Janne had some clear KPIs. He thought that this event should educate and inspire, provide new ideas for user experience, and then invite partners to join the ecosystem. How do you think we did on these KPIs? Did we succeed?
I would say that mostly yes, definitely. Of course, we will be seeing later that what will be the kind of a feedback from the participants online. We are not able to see it so far, but I'm pretty confident that we have been able to achieve those KPIs.
And then I have another question. When you were talking about Altia, is it true that the company was founded around a beer? Is that correct?
Almost. It was founded surrounded by many beers. So the story shortly was that case that our founding team, we were working in the same team in Nokia more than 8 years ago, and it was one sunny day when Nokia announced that okay, they are making some new arrangements and they were cutting the department where we were working. And then of course our team where we were working that okay, let's go to have a beer or two and let's think what we are going to be doing. Then we started to think that okay, what should be next? And then we thought, hey, we have a really great team available and we have the greatest engineers in the world available here. So why not to try to do this in our own and let's fund a company. And then we just toasted, okay, let's do it. And here we are.
So there is a natural connection with Altia in a way from the beginning. Thank you for sharing that great story. Thank you to you and your team for putting this together. Thank you to the entire production team here in the beautiful, bright studio. Isn't this a great studio?
I think probably the best in Finland.
It is the best in Finland. For you especially, ladies and gentlemen, we wish you a very happy and safe end of year. Hopefully you enjoyed the program. I certainly did. See you. Have a good end of the year. Bye-bye. See you.
Bye-bye.